exercises of his brains, that is assuming that he's got any. Though never nurtured in the lap of luxury, yet I admonish you. I am an intellectual chap, and think of things that would astonish you. I often think it comical, that nature always does what's right, that every boy and every girl that's born into the world alive is either a little liberal or else a little conservative. Is either a little liberal or else a little conservative. When in that house MPs divide if they've a brain and cerebellum too, they've got to leave that brain outside and vote just as their leaders tell them to. But for the prospect of a lot of dull MPs in close proximity, all thinking for themselves is what no man can face with equanimity. So let's rejoice with loud that nature always does what's right, that every boy and every girl that's born into this glorious land is either a little Cameron or else a little Miliband. Is either a little Cameron or else a little Miliband. Not Nick Clegg.
to competitive examination.
And he'll carry it too.
Carry it, of course Will is a parliamentary Pickford. He carries everything.
Yes, if you please. That's our fault.
Yes, the deuce it is.
Yes, we influence the members and compel them to vote just how he wishes them to.
It's our system.
Well,
Shorten the debates.
well, I think what it all means. I don't so much mind for myself, but with a house of peers with no grandfathers worth mentioning, the country must go to the dogs.
I suppose it must.
I don't want to say a word against brains. I have a very great respect for brains. Oh, wish I had some myself. But with a house of peers composed exclusively of persons of intellect, what is to become of the House of Commons?
I never thought of that.
This is what comes of women interfering in politics. It so happens that if there is an institution in Great Britain which is not susceptible of any improvement at all, it is the House of Peers. Ruled the waves in the good Queen Bess's time. The House of Peers made no pretence to intellectual eminence or scholarship sublime. Yet Britain won her proudest days in the good Queen Bess's glorious days. Yet Britain on her proudest days in good Queen Bess's glorious days. Yes, Britain on her proudest days in good Queen Bess's glorious days. When Wellington thrashed Bonaparte, as every child can tell, the House of Peers throughout the war did nothing in particular, and did it very well. Yet Britain set the world ablaze in the good King George's glorious days. Yet Britain set the world ablaze in good King George's glorious days. Yes, Britain set the world ablaze in good King George's glorious days. And while the House of Peers beheld in legislative and noble statesmen do not itch to interfere with matters which they do not understand. As bright will shine Great Britain's rays as in King George's glorious days. As bright will shine Great Britain's rays as in King George's glorious days. As bright as shine Great Britain's rays as in King George's glorious days. And while the House of Peers withholds its legislative and noble statesmen do not itch to interfere with matters which they do not understand. As bright will shine Great Britain's rays as in King George's glorious days. As bright will shine Great Britain's rays as in King George's glorious days. As bright
condescension. Give me a British representative. Here.
Then pray stop this protege of yours before it's too late. Think of the mischief you're doing.
But we can't stop him now.
Aren't they lovely?
Oh, why did you go and defy us, you great geek? We hate to ask him, please. As we do not heed, it's true we sigh, in some close, and here the eyes will give the shoes. Oh no, we're very it's true we sigh, but don't suppose a tearful eye forgiveness shows. Oh no, we're very cross indeed, yes, very cross. Don't go. Your disrespectful sneers.
Don't go.
All for vindictive tears.
Don't go.
You break our laws, you are our foe. We cry because we hate you so. You know.
You wicked ears. Don't go.
You break our laws, you are our foe. We cry because we hate you so. You know. You very wicked ears. You wicked ears.
Don't go.
Oh, disrespectful sneers, ha ha! Oh, indignant tears, ha ha! If that's the case, my dears,
Don't go.
we'll go!
Shame upon you! Is this your fidelity to the laws you are bound to obey? Know ye not that it is death to marry a mortal? Yes, but it is not death to wish to marry a mortal.
If it were, you'd have to execute us all.
Oh, this is weakness. Subdue it.
We know it's weakness, but the weakness is so strong.
We're not at all as tough as you are.
Tough!
Do you suppose that I am insensible to the effect of manly beauty? Look at that man. A perfect picture. Who are you, sir?
Private Willis, B Company, 1st Grenadier Guard, sir! Ma'am.
You're a very fine fellow, sir.
I am generally admired.
I can quite understand it. Now, here is a man whose physical attributes are simply godlike.
Wow.
That man has a most extraordinary effect upon me. If I were to follow a natural impulse, I should fall down and worship that man. But I mortify this inclination. I wrestle with it, and it lies beneath my feet. That is how I treat my regard for that man. Oh, foolish babe, think you because his bravery my bosom flows, I disobey our very laws, out it goes at small expense. We must maintain a fair law. That is the main on which to draw. In that we give a captain show. In that we give a captain show. Oh, Captain Shaw, time of true love yet under, could thy brigade with cold cascade quench my great love, I wonder. Oh, Captain Shaw, time of true love yet under, could thy brigade with cold cascade quench my great love, I
I can't think why I'm not in better spirits. I'm engaged to 2 noblemen at once. That ought to be enough to make any girl happy. But I'm miserable. Don't suppose it's because I care for Stratton, for I hate him. No girl could care for a man who goes about with a mother considerably younger than himself.
Phyllis, my darling!
Phyllis, my own.
Don't! How dare you! But I suppose you're the 2 noblemen I'm engaged to.
I am one of them.
I am the other.
Then, my darling, my own. Well, have you decided which it's to be?
Not altogether. It's a difficult position. It would be hardly delicate to toss up. On the whole, we would rather leave it to you.
How can it possibly concern me? You are both earls, you're both rich, and you're both plain.
So we are. At least I am.
So am I.
No.
I am indeed very plain.
Well, perhaps you are.
There's really nothing to choose between you. Now, if one of you would forgo his title and distribute his estates among his Irish tenantry, why then, I should then see a reason for accepting the other.
Tallulah, are you prepared to make this sacrifice?
No.
Not even to oblige a lady?
No, not even to oblige a lady.
Then the only question is which one of us should give way to the other. Perhaps, on the whole, she would be happier with me. I don't know. I may be wrong.
I don't know that you are. I really believe she would. But the awkward part of the thing is that if you rob me of a girl of my heart, we must fight, and one of us must die. It's a family tradition that I have sworn to respect. It's a painful position, but I have a very strong regard for you, George.
Oh, my dear Thomas.
You are very dear to me, George. We were boys together. At least I was. If I were to survive you, my existence would be hopelessly embittered.
Then, my dear Thomas, you must not do it. I say it again and again, if it will have this effect upon you, you must not do it. No. If one of us is to destroy the other, let it be me.
No.
Oh, yes, by our boyish friendship, I implore you.
Well, be it so. But no
that it'll wear off. I like you very much, but not, I think, as much as you like me.
George, you're a noble fellow, but that telltale tear betrays you. No, George, you are very fond of me, and I cannot consent to give you a week's uneasiness on my account.
Dear Thomas, it would not last a week. Remember, you leave the House of Lords. On your demise, I shall take your place. Sir Thomas, it would not last a day.
Oh, now, I do hope you're not going to fight about me, because it's really not what one.
Well, I don't suppose it is.
Nor I. Sacred ties of friendship are paramount.
Perhaps I may incur your blame. The things of you I would not do in friendship's name.
And I may say I think the same. Not even the love should rank above true friendship's name.
Then free be, my little friend, forget your praise and go your ways in friendship's name,
For many a man in friendship's name has yielded fortune, rank, and fame, but no one yet among us so white has yielded up a promised bride. Accept of friendship for all the same.
This
Sacrifice to thy dear name. Accept this sacrifice to thy
Love unrequited robs me of my rest. Love, hopeless love, my ardent soul encumbers. Love, nightmare-like, lies heavy on my chest and weaves itself into my midnight slumber. When you're lying awake with a dismal headache and reposing to boot by anxiety, I conceive you may lose any language you choose to indulge in without impropriety. For your brain is on fire, the bedclothes conspire of usual slumber to plunder you. Thus your counterpane goes and uncovers your toes, and your sheets slip demurely from under you. Then the blanket it tickles you feel like mixed pickles, so terribly sharp is the pricking. And you're hot and you're cross, and you tumble and toss till there's nothing twixt you and the ticking. Then the bedclothes all creep to the ground in a heap, and you pick them all up in a tangle. Next your pillow resigns and politely begins to remain at its usual angle. When you get some repose in the form of a dote, with hot eyeballs and head ever aching, but your slumbering teeth is just horrible dream that you very much better be waking. For you dream you are crossing the channel and tossing about in a steamer from Harwich, which is something between a large bathing machine and a very small second-class carriage. And you're giving it sweets, many ice and cold meats to a party of friends and relations. They're a ravenous horde and they all came aboard in Sloane Square and something to complain. And bound on that journey you find your attorney who started that morning from Devon. He's a bit undersized and you don't feel surprised when he tells you he's only 11. Well, games and he calls you bad name, but you tell him that ties pay the dealer. But this you can stand throw him throw off your hand, and you find you're as cold as an icicle. In your shirt with your socks, the black silky dover, crossing Salisbury Plain on a bicycle. And he and the crew are on bicycles too, which they somehow or other invested in. And he's telling the towns all the particulars of a company he's interested in. It's a scheme of devices to get at low prices, all guns from computers to cables, which tickles the sailors by treating retailers as though they were all vegetables. You get a good spaceman to plant spontaneous, first take off his boots with a boot tree, and his legs will take root and his fingers will shoot, and he'll blossom and bud like a fruit tree. From the green grows a tree, you get grapes and green, cauliflower, pineapple and cranberries, while the pastry could plant cherry, brandy will grant apple puffs and three corners and cranberries. The share of the penny and ever so many are taken by one kind of penny. And just as if you are allotted to you, you awake with a shot of despairing. You're a regular wreck with a crick in your neck and a one year star by your head on the body of the hills and the country. If flesh is green, may you make a sweet green country, you don't be proud of it. It's a puppy no longer a people is coming and there's just a thing, but a general says, don't bitch the business law. But the darkness is past, and it's daylight at last, and the night has been long. You don't get on my song. And thank goodness they're both on their own. He and the crew are on bicycles too, which they somehow or other invested in. And he's telling the towns all the particulars of the company he's interested in. It's a scheme of devices to get at low prices, all guns from computers to cables, which tickled the sailors by treating retailers as though they were all vegetables. You get a good spademan to plant small trade, the first take off his boots with a boot tree, and his legs will take root and his fingers will shoot, and he'll blossom and bud like a fruit tree. From the green grows a tree, you get grapes from the green, cauliflower, pineapple and cranberries, while the pastry could plant cherry, brandy will grant apple puffs, three corners and cranberries. The shade on a penny and ever so many are taken by one kind of penny. And just in a few are allotted to you, you wake with a shot of despair. You're a regular wreck with a crick in your neck and a one year star by your head on the floor like the needles of Pittsburgh shots, they shake you like a creep in on the crack when you turn the blind, you know you're flipping your love and you're creeping. There's lots of times like it was in the ground, it's sticking your door. But the darkness has passed, and it's daylight at last, and the night has been long. You don't get on my soul. And thank goodness they're both on them all.
I am much distressed to see your lordship in this condition.
Ah, my lords, it is seldom that a Lord Chancellor has reason to envy the position of another. But I am free to confess that I would rather be 2 earls engaged to Phyllis than any other half-dozen noblemen upon the face of the globe.
Yes, it's an enviable position when you're the only one.
Yes, most enviable. At the same time, seeing you thus, we naturally say to ourselves, this is very sad. His lordship is constitutionally as blithe as a bird. He trills upon the bench like a thing of song and gladness. His series of judgments in F sharp minor, given on Dante in 6/8 time, are among the most remarkable effects ever produced in the Court of Chancery. He is perhaps the only living instance of a judge whose decrees have been awarded the honor of a double encore. How can we bring ourselves to do that which will deprive the Court of Chancery of one of its most attractive features?
I feel the force of your remarks, but I am here in 2 capacities, and they clash, my lord, they clash. I deeply grieve to say that in declining to not answer my last application to myself, I presume to address myself in terms which render it impossible for me ever to apply to myself again. Oh, it was a most painful scene, my lords. Most painful.
This is what it is to have two capacities. Let us be thankful that we are persons of no capacity whatever.
Come, come. Remember that you are a very just and kindly old gentleman, and need have no hesitation in approaching yourself, so that you do so judiciously and with a proper show of deference.
Do you really think so?
I do.
Well, I will nerve myself to another effort, and if that fails, I resign myself to my fate.
If you go in, you're sure to win. Yours will be the charming maid. Be your lord, the angel sword. Fame on never one fair lady. Never, never, never. Fame on never one fair lady. Every journey has a day, when at the worst of cares will end. God forgot when day is nigh, hustle your horse and don't say die.
He who shies at such a prize, he is not worth a blood of lady. Be so kind to bear in mind, they have never won their lady.
Never, 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 fate has never won fair lady. While the sun shines make your hay, where a wind is there's a way. Hear the lion in his lair, none of the brave deserve a fair.
I'll take heart and make a start, though I fear the prospect shady. Much has left to gain my end, fate have never won fair lady.
Never, 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 fate has never won fair lady. Nothing quench and nothing beat, blood is thick but water's deep. If for a penny in for a pound, it's love that makes the world go round. Nothing quench or nothing beat, blood is thick but water's deep. If for a penny in for a pound, it's love that makes the world go round.
I'll take heart and make a start, though I fear the prospect shady. Much has spent to gain my end, fate have never won fair lady.
Never, 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 fate has never won fair lady. Nothing venture, nothing weak, blood is thick but water's deep. Before a penny in for a pound, it's love that makes the world go round. Nothing venture, nothing weak, blood is thick but water's deep. Before a penny in for a pound, it's love that makes the world go round.
I'll take heart and make a start, though I fear the prospect shady. Much has spent to gain my end, fate have never won fair lady.
Never, 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 fate has never won fair lady.
Nothing venture,
one ought to enjoy oneself in Parliament when one leads both parties, as I do. But I'm miserable. Poor, broken-hearted fool that I am. Oh, Phyllis. Phyllis.
Yes?
Phyllis? But I suppose I should say my lady. I have not yet been informed which title your ladyship has pleased to select.
I haven't quite decided. You see, I have no mother to advise me.
No, I have.
Yes, a young mother.
Not very. A couple of centuries or so.
No, she wears well.
She does. She's a fairy.
I beg your pardon. Of what?
Oh, I've no longer any reason to conceal the fact. She's a fairy.
A fairy? Well, but that would account for a good many things. Then I suppose you're a fairy.
I'm half a fairy.
Which half?
The upper half, down to the waistcoat.
Oh. But dear me, there's nothing to show.
Don't do that.
But why didn't you tell me all this before?
I thought you would take a dislike to me. But as it's all off, you may as well know I'm only half a mortal.
But I'd rather have half a mortal I do love than half a dozen I don't.
I think not. Go to your half dozen.
It's only two, and I hate him. Oh, please forgive me.
I don't think I ought. Besides, all sorts of difficulties will arise. You know, my grandmother looks quite as young as my mother. So do all my aunts.
I quite understand. Whenever I see you kissing a very young lady, I shall know it's an elderly relative.
You will? Then, Phyllis, I think we shall be very happy together.
We won't wait long.
No, we might change our minds. We'll get married first.
And change our minds afterwards.
That's the usual course. If we weaken up to marry, ere we marry, you and I, of the feeling I inspire, you may tire by and by. 4 years with glowing hopes, rest their offers, that is why I am sure we should not tarry, ere we marry, you and I. If we weaken up to marry, ere we marry, you and I, with a more attractive maiden to the maiden will be fine. If by chance we should be parted, broken hearted, I should die. So I think we will not tarry, ere we marry, you and I. If we weaken up to tarry, ere we marry, you and I, all the feeling I inspire, you may tire by and by. All the feeling I inspire, you may tire by and by. If we weaken up to tarry, ere we marry, you and I, all the feeling I inspire, you may tire by and by. So I think we will not tarry, ere we marry, you and I, you and I, you and
Mother Lemuel, I mean, is she aware of our engagement?
She is, and thus she welcomes her daughter-in-law.
Oh, she kisses just like other people. But the Lord Chancellor,
I forgot him. Mother, none can resist your fairy eloquence. You will go to him and plead for us.
No, no, impossible.
But our happiness, our very lives depend upon our obtaining his consent.
oh madam, you cannot refuse to do this.
You know not what you ask. The Lord Chancellor is my husband.
Your husband?
My husband and your father. not to undeceive you.
Victory!
But see, he comes. Quick.
Victory! Victory! Success has crowned my efforts, and I may consider myself engaged to Phyllis. At first, I wouldn't hear of it. It was out of the question. But I took heart. I pointed out to myself that I was no stranger to myself, that in point of fact, I had been very well acquainted with myself for some years. This had its effect. I admitted that I had watched my professional advancement with considerable interest, and I handsomely added that I yielded to no one in admiration for my private or professional virtues. This was a great point gained. I then endeavoured to work upon my feelings. Conceive my joy when I distinctly perceived a tear glistening in my own eye. Eventually, after a severe struggle with myself, I reluctantly, most reluctantly, consented.
My lord, a suppliant at your feet I kneel. Oh, listen to a mother's fond appeal. Hear me tonight, I come in urgent need. 'Tis for my son, young Strephon, that I plead. He knows if in the bygone years thine eyes had ever shed tears, bitter unavailing tears for one untimely dead. If in the eventide arrive sad thoughts of horror rise, then let the memory of thy life plead for thy boy. He dies. He dies if fondly laid aside in some old cabinet. Memorials of thy long-dead bride lie dearly treasured yet. Then let her hallowed bridal dress her little dainty glance, her withered hands, her faded dress, plead for my boy.
It may not be, for so the fates decide. Learn thou that Phyllis is my promised bride.
Thy bride! No, no.
It shall be so. Those who would separate us woe betide.
I do, thy lips have spoken. I plead in vain.
couldn't help themselves.
It seems they have helped themselves, and pretty freely too. You have all incurred death, but I can't slaughter the whole company, and yet the law is clear. Every fairy must die who marries a mortal.
Allow me, as an old equity draftsman, to make a suggestion. The subtleties of the legal mind are equal to the emergency. The thing is really quite simple. The insertion of a single word will do it. Let it stand that every fairy shall die who don't marry a mortal. And there you are, out of your difficulty at once.
We like your humor. Very well. Private Willis.
Sir? Ma'am?
To save my life, it is necessary that I marry at once. How would you like to be a fairy, Guy?
Well, ma'am, I don't think much of the British soldier who wouldn't inconvenience himself to save a female in distress.
You're a very brave fellow. You are a fairy from this moment. And you, my lords, how say you? Will you join our ranks?
Well, now that the House of Peers is to be replaced by a wholly elected chamber, I don't see what good we are down here, do you, Torella?
None whatever.